Hey guys, welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today I have a Christmas mega video for you. I hope you enjoy these projects. Let's get right into them.
I saw a lantern recently on Kirkland's website and I thought it was absolutely beautiful, the shape of it, but I wanted to customize it a little bit more for my own home, and I thought I could also make it for much less. So I bought some square dowel pieces as well as another piece of lumber, and I just cut them down to the size of the lantern that I wanted to make, and then I just kind of sanded them all to smooth them all up. Now I realize I have only 4 little pieces there. You need 8 altogether, and so I have these 4 square dowels right here. These are going to make these corners and sides of my lantern. So you'll kind of see what I do here, because it is kind of hard for me to explain. But I'm taking the blocks of wood that I cut here, and I will glue them as a cross piece between 2 of these square dowels. So I'm just using, I do use a little bit of hot glue, but if you cannot do that and just use your clamps, I do recommend that. You'll get a much tighter seal. And I'll glue a piece at the bottom of these and a piece at the top. So you'll kind of see the shape that I end up with here. So you'll have 2 of these because you had 4 of those square dowels. So now you're going to attach these 2 together. So you'll take 4 more pieces of these block pieces of wood, and you're just going to glue them at the bottom as more cross pieces. So hopefully you can watch what I'm doing and this makes sense to you here, but I will just glue this onto, there's going to be 2 on the bottom on this side and then 2 on the top. So, and then I just put my wood glue on, and then I'll place that other piece right on the top. So this makes a totally 3-dimensional lantern shape. Hopefully you can see this coming together now. And I do just use my clamps to clamp it together until that is dry, and I can release those, and then you're left with that lantern shape. Now, I bought this wood sign at Hobby Lobby, and it's going to be my base, and that little hanging portion is just going to be at the bottom. No one's going to know it's there except for you and for me. And then I just put my wood glue around the edges and then place that right on top. So I took my measurements from the base so I knew how wide to make my lantern. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So I stained the whole thing in antique wax because I want it to look very weathered. So I'm going to go in and dry brush this. So I'm showing you this piece right here in real time. I dip my brush in that white chalk paint and just kind of go over all of the edges. And then I'll speed it up a little bit here and just kind of show you that when there's like hardly any paint in my brush and I'm left on my little plate there, I just kind of go through and just dab it and smack it on and just kind of get that really weathered rustic look. In the base of this, I have glued a piece of styrofoam down. It's just floral foam that I had, but whatever type of styrofoam you have, you definitely can use that. I wanted to glue it down with hot glue just so this wouldn't be tipping over or if anybody was to knock into it. But since it is hot glue, I think I could easily take this block out if I want to reuse this for like year round or anything like that. I just took a couple of picks from Hobby Lobby as well as Dollar Tree picks, just whatever I had in my stash. And I did buy a couple specific for this and cut them into mini picks. And then just what was pleasing to my eye, I just stick them in all around. I have this little bag of wooden shapes that had this little circular like disc in it. So I glue this into the middle of the styrofoam, and you just want to make sure you hold it down until it dries. That is where my candle will go. It will also give me a frame of reference as I'm placing the picks in, so I know kind of where not to stick the picks as well as where to stick them. So, and then here is my candle, fits perfectly on there. This is coming together so well. I'm so excited about this. I just keep using all of the florals that I have. I go around if I need to remove some and move them to a different area. I do that. I just make sure that each side looks full and that it all looks fairly even, if that makes sense. And I just wanted it spilling over the edges. I thought that looked really pretty and everything. And so just what looks good to you and what looks best to you. But here it is, completely finished. I am so excited about this. I cannot wait to use this in my holiday decor.
You guys know that I am a big fan of checking out your wedding section at your craft store. I found this darling sign there that somebody would probably just overlook, thinking, oh, I don't need a sign that says sign our guest book. And maybe you've had a wedding and you have something like this sitting around, and you can totally make it be something that you can use for your decor. So I just take it outside and I sand off that design because I don't need anybody to sign my guest book. And I just sand it with my electric sander. And I'm going to go over the top of it with just a light brushing of just some chalk paint. I go really light at first. I do get a little bit heavier than this, but I just take my time going slowly so I don't overdo it. But I do want a very rustic look to this sign, but I wanted it to be a little bit brighter than what that background left. I am a big fan of finding different ways to make signs, and I'm going to show you guys how to print on tissue paper today. I am a big fan of this. So I'm just taking a piece of paper and a piece of tissue paper, and I am printing it where you'll have a shiny side of the tissue paper and kind of a dull side. And you want, at least I like to print on the dull side. So I print it or tape it with the shiny side towards the paper so the ink will not slip on that shine, that it will have something on that little matte dull side to adhere to. Now this is the first time I've tried printing on an entire page like this. I'll usually just tape a little section onto the front of my paper, but I want my sign to be the whole size of my paper. So I am just taping all of the edges down. So as you saw, I put my piece of paper down and I'm just folding all of the edges over. That way I have the entire surface area of the front of the paper for my design to print on. Now I make sure that all of my edges are completely taped down, and so I just go over them. You can see how that looks here. And then I have got this entire front surface here, and I just feed this through my printer like a normal piece of paper. So you obviously want this side right here up for your design to print on, and you can see how big the design looks and how good it looks. I purchased this design from one of my favorite graphic shops on Etsy. I'll leave the link down in the description box. They have different designs for all sorts of seasons, and they're absolutely beautiful. So now I'm just carefully removing the tissue paper. It doesn't matter if the back of this tissue paper rips at all because we're going to cut the excess off, but I obviously don't want to go just, willy-nilly and pull this off really quickly and have it end up ripping the front of the design. And also make sure that you give a fair amount of drying time to your design. I waited about an hour after I'd printed this. I was just busy doing some other DIYs, letting this dry completely. And you can kind of see how the ink goes through the tissue paper onto that normal piece of paper. So you just want to make sure to give it a little bit of drying time so that way you don't have any problems with the ink smearing or anything. So now I'm just cutting off the excess of tissue paper all around this sign so it will fit onto the top of our surface. So I just take some Mod Podge and place that down. Now you can use glossy, you can use luster, satin, whatever type of Mod Podge you have is going to be just fine. And I just lay the tissue paper down, and then I sped this up a little bit, but I do just gently rub with my finger to kind of get as many of the bubbles and wrinkles out. Now it's tissue paper and a liquid, so you are going to get a little bit of the wrinkles, and that's totally fine, especially with the rustic look. And but you can see here, if it gets too bad, I can just kind of pull it up gently, and I can kind of reassess and adjust things if I need to kind of keep rubbing that design down to get it completely adhered to the surface. Now, if your sign has these grooves like my sign has, I'm just taking a paintbrush with a little bit of water on it, and I'm going over the top of this. This goes right through the tissue paper. I get it wet first, and then I will go back over it to kind of make those indentations in the design so it looks like this is actually part of the wood. You want to make sure to go over and seal everything in with another layer of Mod Podge. This is just going to seal in the ink. It's going to give it a little bit of waterproofness. If water was to get splashed on it or anything, you wouldn't have any problems with that ink bleeding or anything like that. Then to help the top and the bottom of the sign where I have the excess blend in, I'm just dry brushing a little bit of antiquing wax onto there. It glides on very smoothly with that layer of Mod Podge there. And then I pay attention to the edges, and so it looks like that sign blends completely in. And then I go over the tissue paper with a little bit of the white paint that I painted the sign with, just a dry brush, just to kind of give it a little bit of an aged look. So now I felt like this sign, you could leave it the way that it is, but I felt like it needed a little bit of embellishment. So I'm just tying just a normal shoestring bow out of this buffalo check ribbon that I have, and just kind of making my loops down to size of how big I want the bow. And then we're going to add some greenery and things to this. I'm just taking some leftover greenery and some little red berries from other picks that I have cut down, and I just tie a couple together, and I'm going to use some hot glue to glue the berries in each side there because the stems weren't long enough to tie together like the greenery was. And then I'm just going to, you can see, just glue those right in there, and then I will glue this to the top of the sign here. So, and I do that just using a little bit of hot glue, and then you just want to make sure to hold that in place until that completely dries. And then the same thing, just glue that bow onto the front. And then I just dovetail the ends of my bow. You can cut them at an angle, do however you like to do the ends of your bows. I did leave my tails longer so it would kind of drape down the sign. So you can see I'm just using a little bit of hot glue there. That's just going to help my tails kind of hang and droop the way that I want them to. And then I just kind of do a little bit of fluffing on the bow and everything there. And look at how absolutely darling this is. I think this is beautiful. This would be such an easy project to make and sell if you had a booth. I just think this is so cute, and I'm so excited to get to decorate with it. This DIY was inspired by an ornament that I saw at one of the local craft stores. It was this cute little snowman, and I thought it would be perfect to use these Dollar Tree cubes on. So I just take 3 of those, and then using some wood glue and some hot glue, I just clamp them together just to kind of get that really good hold on these. And I kind of make them a little bit askew. That's how the ornament I saw was, and I thought that was really super cute to kind of give definition. I have these little pieces of scrap wood that I'm just going to cut down to make a little hat out of, but you could easily do this out of anything else that you have, or even another sign or some of the wood pieces you get from Dollar Tree. It was just a couple little pieces that I had. And then I had a little bag of these stars that I recently got. I bought a big bag of a bunch of wood pieces at a garage sale, or a yard sale, and so I'm just using the heck out of all of that stuff. So I'll just color the hat, or paint, not color. We're gonna paint the hat black, and then as you saw earlier, I did paint my snowman in whatever color of white that you have or you want to use, and then I am painting these little stars white as well. And then I'm just taking another one of these stars, and I just kind of cut one of the little points off of them to paint orange for my little carrot nose, but whatever you'd like to use to do that would work fine. I also sanded the edges to kind of give it a very distressed look, and then I'm going to go around with some antiquing wax on all of the edges, and then I'll just kind of brush that on and then lightly wipe it off with the baby wipe just to give a little bit of a stained look and just a little bit more definition. I do the same thing with the hat, just go around the edge with a little bit of antiquing wax on my brush and then just wipe it off. Just again, it just kind of makes the wood look a little bit, I mean, honestly, it looks like toasted marshmallow to me with the snowman with the white and the little bit of stain on there. But anyhow, so I will take the little stars. I'm going to use those as buttons for my little snowman, and I'm just going to kind of sand the edges down. And then just using a little bit of hot glue, I just stick one right there on his little tummy, and then I go ahead and put the other one on the next little block there for his little tummy there. So cute. It's kind of starting to come together. What do you guys think? I don't know. I was really skeptical about how this would look, but I absolutely love it. So I just decide which side I want the hat to go on, and so I will just glue this on top of his head, again just using hot glue, and then I will glue the top portion of his top hat on there. And then just kind of center it as best you can. I don't really measure a lot with it when it comes to centering things. I kind of really like that askewed look. And then his little nose, just a little bit of hot glue. And honestly, you could stop right here and just leave this guy like this. He looks absolutely darling without a face painted on, but I thought I would try and paint a face. And you guys hear me talk about all the time that I never freehand anything, and you may see why here in just a minute. You'll have to let me know how I did. But I put some little eyes on there, just dipping the end of my paintbrush into my paint, and then I do kind of make them a little bit bigger because I want him to have a bit more fuller eyes. And so I kind of I'll go back in and put a little bit more. You can use a dotting tool to do this too, but the end of your paintbrush works just fine. So there's his eyes. So far we're good, but here's the smile. So I do the first little part of my smile, and honestly, it would have been cute if I had just left it like that, but I thought, oh, I'll make it a full curved smile. And again, guys, I am not a painter. I don't freehand a lot. Well, I don't detail paint, but his smile ends up looking okay, I feel like, but it is definitely just kind of a little bit skiwampus. But it's definitely cute and definitely homemade, and I absolutely love it. So I just put a little bit of those little dimple type defining features on the end of his smile there, and I think the face turns out pretty okay. You'll have to let me know what you think. But I take a little bit of Dollar Tree ribbon and I cut it down because I didn't have any of the exact size to fit onto his thing, and I wanted to add a little bit of evergreen into his little hat there. So I just glue each of the ends of the ribbon down here. This is pretty self-explanatory, just using some hot glue and wrapping that around, and you just cut it to size. You could even make like a little scarf for him if you wanted to, if you'd rather not decorate the top hat, or you could do both. And then I will just glue on my little evergreen there and just add some little berries to it. I think this turns out super, super cute. I just take a gold acrylic paint marker and just touch up where the styrofoam shows through. That's just a hack for you guys. If you ever have the styrofoam peeking through on your berries, just take the same color marker and touch it up. But what do you guys think of him? I think he turned out so cute. I am absolutely in love with him. And he was so easy to do. In my stash, I have this orange tin sign blank, and I've kind of been wondering what to do. Where it was orange, I think originally thought I was going to do a fall DIY with it, but we're just going to paint it and make a Christmas DIY out of it. I just give this about 3 or 4 coats of red chalk paint. You easily could spray paint it. I just did not have any red spray paint on hand this day, so the chalk paint or acrylic paint, whatever you have that way, would work just fine. Now, I do have some little ornament shapes that I picked up at the craft store. I have seen them at Dollar Tree. You could even just cut out just paper. You wouldn't have to use the 3-dimensional element. So easy to kind of tailor this to what works best for you. But I do just trace out a circle on some of my plaid paper, and I'm just going to use that on the front of my ornament. Now I'm going to use my favorite school glue. This is just purple glue stick. It's Elmer's glue. It works fantastic for a lot of craft projects. I feel like when crafters find something that works for them, they do just continue to use that. And I have not had any issues with this, so I do use it quite a bit. But I do just place this paper right down. I line up where the plaid, where I want it to kind of be, just eyeball it, see what looks good. And then I'm just using my Mod Podge roller just to kind of make sure that that gets very good and bonded. And then this is very sped up, but in a slow downward motion with my file, I just make those edges crisp and clear. And then I also paint around the edge with some black paint to finish it off. And I have this gold paint pen from Dollar Tree, so I just use that to put on the top of my ornament. I love to add the nativity into my Christmas decorating any way that I can, so I did just cut out this little silhouette of the nativity. You easily could skip this step if you did not want to, or you could even print one out from online if you don't have a cutting machine and decoupage it on there. Now I cut out the letters J and Y because our ornament will act as our O. These are block letters, so you could easily cut these out by hand with paper, using sticker paper or vinyl if you don't have a cutting machine, or you could even stencil them on there, or if you're good at hand lettering, you could definitely do that. I want to make sure that this ornament is very good and stuck, so I did use some super glue as well as some hot glue, and then I'm just going to put a little holly leaf and some berries on there. I thought that was so cute, and if you know anything about the song The Holly and the Ivy, you know how the holly correlates to the birth of Christ, and I absolutely love using that in combination with my nativity. So I do take some metallic acrylic paint. That was hard for me to say for some reason, but I do just dry brush that on. You would not have to do this step. I thought where it was a tin sign, it would look kind of cute and rustic, and you can do it as heavy-handed as you want. I end up getting very heavy-handed on here, and I know that's not everybody's style, so you definitely do it to what works best for you, or not at all. But I just go around all the edges with those little, the little bead type looking, the little raised areas. It looks really, really good. I am so happy with how this turned out. I absolutely love that little ornament with the nativity in the middle. I think that this is absolutely perfect. What do you guys think of this one? I fell in love with this Joy to the World sign and the cute plaid trees on Kirkland's website. It does retail for $29.99. Let's see if we can do better. Any frame that you can find will work for this. I happen to have this frame from IKEA. They do sell them for around $7 or $8, I believe. I am just going to take off the matting and that paper, and I'm going to just reveal this little backing here. I'm going to use this and spray paint it black and use that for my scene. I like the idea of doing this because then if I want to reuse this frame throughout the year, I can still just place a picture right over the top of it and it will still be waiting there for Christmas next year. I chose to cut my Christmas trees out on my cutting machine, but do what works best for you. You could easily take some different Christmas tree shapes and trace them on the back of different scrapbook papers and freehand cut them out. That would work very well. I'm just using some purple glue stick on the back of my trees to get them to adhere. I absolutely love this stuff and I feel like it gives a really good bond. I do use my Mod Podge roller just to go over it evenly to make sure that all of those little edges of the tree are stuck down really good. For the lighter colored trees, I thought it would be fun to use a gold vinyl. I thought that would add a really nice shimmer. So I just placed them down kind of like a sticker over the tree. I am not worried about the different texture there, seeing the other tree pop from behind. That doesn't bother me at all. But I just go through and get all of the trees placed similarly to my inspiration piece on Kirkland's website. Using two different fonts that I found online, I will leave a link to those in my description box. I made this little Joy to the World decal on my cutting machine that I'm going to place on the top here. And I really love the feel that this font gives. Of course, I couldn't find the exact fonts that they used on Kirkland's piece, but I felt that these gave a very similar feel, and I really like the way that this looks. And then it's time to just pop the backing back into the frame. I did leave what would be the glass. IKEA does like a little plastic film. So I left that off so that way it was an open look there. So here is the inspiration piece from Kirkland's, you can see. And then here is my piece that I did. What do you think? Did I get close? Do you guys like this one? I think it was about less than $10 that I did. So definitely like a third of the price. I found a graphic of the sheet music for Holly and the Ivy. It's just the first verse on here, so I did print that out after sizing it to the size I wanted it. And now I am just going to tear the edges to kind of give this a very aged look. So when I go to the edge, and this is very sped up, but I did just kind of go back and forth to give it a really weathered and aged look on it. And I do this to all four sides. And then I take this piece of paper and just crumple it up like it's trash. And then we just open it back up. This adds lots of fun little wrinkles and things in there. And I have this little scrapbook, like aging kit for paper. I've seen them at Hobby Lobby. I got this at JoAnns, but it comes with a bunch of different colors and you can even buy additional colors. And there's lots of different techniques that it kind of explains to you in there on how to age paper and make things look really old and weathered. So I'm just doing kind of a bunch of different techniques here. If you even want to call it a technique, I really just kind of was rubbing the ink and the dye and everything on the paper. You can see how all of those little wrinkles picks up that dye and really does make it look aged. I really am happy with how that came out. Now I found this little sign in kind of like the kids craft section of the Christmas section at Hobby Lobby, and I thought it would be a darling little sign to make over. So I'm just using this for this particular project, but use whatever you have that you want to do a little sign on. So I do just paint the base black and then the edges all black, and on that little finial on the top I go in with some antiquing wax. I really like the contrast of that with the black. I thought it just looked really nice together with the whole theme that I was going with here. And there's also a little wood piece down at the bottom between the sign and the base, and I just stain that with the same antiquing wax to kind of tie it in. Now I paint kind of a little bit over the edge where my sheet music and the scrapbook paper I use will go, so that way a little bit of the black will peek out, but I don't need to do the full center because that's where my paper will be. Hopefully that makes sense. On the back side, I did just completely paint it black. You could easily make another sign on the back side of this, so it could be two-sided or even do like chalkboard something on the back. But on the front side of this that I'm doing, I just found this plaid paper out of some Christmas plaids that I had.
and cut it to be just a little bit less than the size of the sign. So that way you can kind of see that black through there. And I just used some good old purple school glue, just that little glue stick glue to put that down with. And then I do the same thing on the sheet music here and just place that on top of the plaid paper. So I'm going to use these little holly embellishments along with this cute bow that I made. But of course, I must have felt it wasn't important to hit record on my camera while I made the bow. So I'm just showing you that I took the ribbon, made a ring with it, and then pinched it in the middle and then tied that off. And that is how I made this cute little bow. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue to glue it to the top there. And then I had some little tails on it that I thought would be really cute. To kind of glue those to the side so that way they wouldn't fall down over the sheet music. It kind of gives them just a little bit of placement. Hopefully that makes sense. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. So I glue those little holly leaves and berries up just underneath that bow peeking down. Now, as you can see, you can't see the title of the music where it says the holly and the ivy at all. I know it's there, you know it's there, but you could do this with any sheet music that you had. Now I'm taking the second half of this nativity ornament that I have and I just dry brushed it with a little bit of black to make it pop a little bit more against that music, and I just hot glue it onto the front. You would not have to do that step. I actually just, any way that I can add a little bit more Christ into my Christmas decorating, I absolutely love.
It is so simple to make some Christmas greenery to kind of bring that Christmas feel into a little area in your home. So I'm just taking a topiary ball and some little berries that I have just off of a pick that I've used for some other things, and I'm just going to trim those down. Now you can use some hot glue to glue these berries in if you would like, or you can just take a normal everyday little fixture that you have, like a plant or something, a little topiary that you want to just stick these into to kind of bring that Christmas feel into them. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm just kind of bringing those berries into this little topiary. I'm going to use this little galvanized metal tub here that I got from Hobby Lobby to just set it in. It gave the perfect height for what I would like to do with it. After I finish placing all of the berries where I would like them, I'm going to use these cute little ornament tags. These came from Walmart and they do have something similar to this, at least they have the past few years. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to find these exact ones, but they have these cute little farmhouse sayings on them and they're absolutely darling, perfect for what I want to do. So I'm just going to take the ribbon and I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue inside of our little bucket here, and I'm just going to place that there. I will also glue this down on the outside so it doesn't kind of flap around everywhere. Now, I did want to leave the little ribbon on the top of this because I felt like if I took it out, it would kind of leave an arbitrary hole there. This way it looks like it is kind of fixed to the bucket there and it is kind of like a permanent fixture. And we'll just place our topiary ball back on the top there. I think this looks so cute. Now I did notice in some of those berries there was a little bit of the red part, the exterior missing. So I just took some red paint and touched those up. But this is such a simple project to convert a normal everyday piece into something that is Christmassy. It's going to be perfect for the little vignette that I have in mind for it. I found these cute little jars at Dollar Tree, and I feel like they always have some type of little jar like this. They may differ a little bit, but these had this cute little space where you could put some, like a little tag or something. So in order to get paint to stick to glass, I'm just going to put a little bit of Mod Podge down in that area and let that dry. And that way when I'm going to put a little bit of chalkboard paint on these. That way it will adhere to the glass and it won't just immediately scratch off. So I'm just going to do that on all three of these in that little area. Now I just take some chalkboard paint. I'm just using chalkboard paint from Dollar Tree, and I am just going to carefully brush that into this little area. You'll have to do at least 2 coats on here, possibly 3, just depends on how thin you're doing your coats. The thinner the better, I have learned with this, but I just take my time. I have a little bit of an angled brush that I can go in and get that curve as best I can. And the nice thing is where you have not put your Mod Podge, you would be able to go in with kind of like your finger or fingernail and kind of scratch off. So if you do go out of the lines, it's not a huge huge worry. But on all 3 of these, I just put this little bit of chalkboard paint down. Now you easily could write with chalk, like a chalk marker or something, to customize it that way. Of course, we know that I don't freehand anything, so I do just make a couple decals with my Cricut. I have one that says reindeer treats, one that says Santa snacks, and another that says Grinch goodies, and I thought those were just super cute. And then I am just taking 2 different kinds of twine here. This is the baker's twine in red and green, and just tying around the top. And look at how simple and easy and how cute those are. I would love to know what kind of treats you would put inside of each of your little jars if you were to make these. When I saw this canvas sign on Kirkland's website, I absolutely fell in love with it, but check out that price. I think we can definitely do better than that. I found this Merry Christmas sign at Hobby Lobby. I have seen similar ones at Dollar Tree that are a little bit thinner, so keep that in mind. But all of the Christmas stuff at Hobby Lobby is 40% off, so that definitely makes it a good deal. And I love the 3-dimensional look that the thicker sign gives. So I'm using these 2 longer signs from Dollar Tree, and I am just removing the design off the back of them. Honestly, I'm not sure why I did this, because I did end up covering it with craft paper. Obviously, my elf sign, I wanted to remove like the ridges of his little hat there, but this other sign, I take the little heart off because, of course, as any DIYer knows, you're going to totally repurpose that. But I don't know why I go through and tear off all of the little pieces of this home sign, but I do anyway. So, and it actually peels off rather easy, but again, I do end up covering it with craft paper, so it's not necessary to do that. These little hanging ribbons, twine, and tags on the back there, I just go through and remove, and then I'm using some needle nose pliers, and I'm just using the corner of my little scraper tool there. That way, my putty knife, I guess it's called, but that way it kind of lifts it up so I can go in with my needle nose pliers to get those out, because they're in there pretty good. So to get these 2 signs to stick together, I'm lining them up with what edges fit the best, and then just putting a bead of hot glue. And then I am using jumbo craft sticks. You get these at Walmart. And I didn't realize there when I did it, I need to leave a space in the middle because I'm going to put another one up the middle to give it a little bit of support there. And then this is where you would get your craft paper, and you would just hot glue some craft paper onto the back of it. On the front side of it, I cover it completely with white chalk paint. You could spray paint it. You can paint it with chalk paint, acrylic paint, house paint, whatever kind of paint you want. I am taking some like washi tape is what this I guess is called, from Dollar Tree. And guys, I had no idea if this would work or not, or if all of my lines would bleed together. So this was a totally new thing for me, but I am stenciling these stripes on. Essentially, all I did was just look at the original piece and come up with some spacing that I wanted for my lines. So it has the larger stripe down the middle and then 2 smaller stripes on the side. So that is how I placed my tape. To stencil, you just want to use a very minimal amount of paint on your sponge brush. So I am just dabbing up and down the seams, like you can kind of see exactly what I'm doing there, right along the tape. That is going to seal it. You just want to go straight up and down, not use like a swiping motion. That is going to make sure that it seals those lines to stop any bleed through. Now, as you can see, I did get a little bit of paint on the actual sign, so I took a wet Q-tip and I was able to get the paint off from that way. Obviously, if that hadn't have worked, I could just go back in with some white and cover it up that way too, but it worked really well with the wet Q-tip. You're going to do the exact same process on the other side to make the stripes on the other side of the sign, so that is what I'm doing here. Here is where we find out if this Dollar Tree washi tape works to do stenciling, and I was very impressed. I thought it worked very well. Look at how crisp and clean those lines came out. So definitely keep your eye open. That tape is in the Crafter's Square at Dollar Tree. I will definitely be buying some more of this.
Look at how nice those lines look. So on this Merry Christmas sign, I'm just going to cut the little twine hanging piece off there because we're obviously not going to need that. And I just paint this completely with red paint. Use your choice of red paint. I'm just using Waverly's Crimson color. Using hot glue, I just go ahead and center the Merry Christmas in the middle of the sign. And if there's any glue that comes out or anything, I just use my weeding tool to clean that up. Here is a look at the original version, our inspiration piece that was $90. What do you guys think? Do you think I came close on this one? I personally absolutely love this. I'm excited to use it. And I would say that easily less than like $6 or $7. For this project, you're just going to need a frame, preferably a little bit of a smaller one because you're going to want to hang it from your tree, and then also 3 of the smaller sized craft sticks. Now I want my finish on these craft sticks to match the finish of my frame. So I took some antiquing wax. You could also take some watered down brown paint and give them a stain, and then I just dry brush some white paint onto them. So now I'm going to remove the back of my frame, and I'm not going to need to put it back in, so I can put that aside to use for another project. And I just take some needle nose pliers to remove all of these little pokey bendy things so that way nobody's going to hurt themselves on those. So to brighten up my frame, because the paint on my craft sticks was a little bit brighter than this, I really like that brighter color, so I am just dry brushing over the frame to kind of help match it. So now we're making a window frame, so I'm going to use the craft sticks to make the cross beams for my window. So my first stick, I just cut down to match the horizontal cross beam there and get that kind of centered in the middle. So now I need to make the vertical cross beam. However, the craft sticks were too short to do one, so I had to do 2. So I had to cut it down to size so that way I could glue 2 of these onto that middle cross beam. And here's what I mean. So see how that second stick will fit there as well. So you just need to make sure you have enough space to be able to glue both of them on there, and they will sit flush. So I'm just using some hot glue to glue these in as well. Now you can embellish your window any way that you would like. I'm just taking some spare little sprigs of evergreen and some eucalyptus that I have, and I'm just tying them together to make a little swag. And then I also have this cute little cardinal ornament that I've had for so long I don't even know where I got it from. And so it possibly even came from Dollar Tree. I have no idea, but I'm just going to glue that onto the bottom because I thought that was super cute. And I have seen so many on Pinterest like this, like windows. You could even make a big one out of a big frame to make a great big display with. Would be absolutely darling. And you could also put a back in here with a really beautiful wintry picture that would be cute as well. I wanted you to see the lights from my Christmas tree since I'm making an ornament out of this, so I chose to leave mine open. And I did just put a little twine bow at the top of my swag, and now I just tied off some of the twine to make my little hanging element, and I'm just going to use some hot glue to glue that on. And I just looped it around and tied a double knot into the bottom, and then just with some hot glue, and then after it dries I go in and reinforce it. And then looking at my cross beams, I decided to put a little bit of hot glue there to reinforce that also. Look at how absolutely beautiful and cute this is, and it was so easy. I absolutely love how this turned out. I am such a sucker for a really good wreath, and I fell in love with this holiday Magnolia wreath, but check out that price. I totally had sticker shock for $110. No way. We definitely can do better. Hobby Lobby has these beautiful Magnolia wreaths. They have them year round in their floral section. Their normal price is $50. Guys, do not pay $50 for this wreath. Their floral goes on sale every other week. Buy it when it's 50% off. The quality is unmatched. Even the Magnolia floral arrangements and wreaths that I saw at Magnolia Farm in Waco were not anywhere near what this wreath is. So definitely pick one up when you have the chance. The nice thing is I can dress this wreath up for Christmas, and then everything is removable. So I can take it all down and have this wreath for the rest of the year. So I bought 3 evergreen sprigs and cut them down to be 6. And then I bought 1 sprig of berries or pick of berries, and I cut it down to have 6 little sections also. I'm just bending the little stem on the back of the evergreens to kind of mimic the shape of the wreath. And then what I do is hold it really close to that base of the wreath, and then using some floral wire, I just wind it on kind of like a twist tie, if you will. And I'll go sometimes to the front and then to the back, like bring the wire around to the back, twist it, and if it's long enough, bring it back to the front and twist it, if that even makes sense. I'll let you just kind of watch what I do as I twist all of these on, but I just kind of go around sporadically with the wreath, making it symmetrical between the evergreens and then the berries. Before I wire the berries in, I do kind of what I guess you would call a dry fit with all of them to make sure that the spacing is good, that I like the different picks in each different area that I'm placing it. There's such a bold statement on the wreath that I wanted to make sure that they did look really good where they were. I'm going to remember to remove that price tag because I want people to think I bought this at Kirkland's. Look at how good it looks. I love it. You guys, these Magnolia wreaths, or the leaves on the wreath, are so easy to manipulate and kind of move around to fill out where you need to. I love them. Here is a look at the inspiration piece from Kirkland's website that was $110. Here is mine. What do you guys think of this one? I love how it turned out. Here it is on my front door. And I would say that less than $40. So from $110 to $40 is not bad. Plus, I can use this wreath year round after I take out the evergreen sprigs and the berries. This is just a hot chocolate container that I had. We love hot chocolate at our house in the wintertime. And so this is just, I think, like the Stevens brand hot chocolate container. So that's the size if you're wanting reference. I believe like Swiss Miss and Nestle, like they all probably come in about the same size. So, but any type of canister that you have would easily work for this. I'm just letting you know in case you want to know on size reference. But I started to paint it white, which you could easily do if you don't have this little removable wallpaper from Dollar Tree. So just keep that in mind that after I painted it white, I remembered that I had this paper and I thought it would be a really cute background on here. So whatever you have, go ahead and do that, what's going to be easiest for you. But this wallpaper fit around perfectly. And this is something new that Dollar Tree's been carrying. I've seen a few DIYers grab some, and I thought it was perfect for this project. And it fits like a glove around this canister. It just meets right up on the other side, and it was the perfect fit. So I thought that would be such a cute little backdrop.
For the design that I'm going to put on here, I'm going to take off of one of the farmhouse calendars from Dollar Tree, the December page, which has this Farm Fresh Christmas trees graphic on here, which is absolutely darling, but I need to make it fit because it kind of would fit if I just put it on, but it was a little bulky. So I'm going to kind of trim it down a little bit. So I'm just kind of going around and seeing as far as for reference, like how I would like the trees to fit, where I want them to sit. I didn't know at this point if I just wanted just the trees on there, if I wanted just the Christmas tree part, how I wanted it to be. But after I kind of played around with it for a minute, I kind of decided I could fit it all on there and I knew kind of how to do it. I just needed to trim everything down. So that's what I'm going to do next. So just trimming in and out of the branches here, I do kind of like what you would consider, I guess, a bubble cut. So it's not super exact, but it is fairly close to the edges of the tree. And I don't do each individual tree. As you can see here, I kind of go down maybe a third of the way on the next tree and then go up. Because the background on the calendar pretty much matches the background of the wallpaper that I'm using, it's not going to be super noticeable. I don't even think with white paint it would be super noticeable. So you can see I've got the Farm Fresh cut out there, and I'm going to have those trees kind of go up and overlap that there. And then I just cut out the Christmas part here as well as the trees. And on this Christmas, it is very delicate. So I did just kind of go around. And honestly, guys, I've had several people comment to me that I should use some more detail scissors, and I did try. I just feel more comfortable using my big scissors. I guess the moral of the story is just use what scissors work best for you, and I'll do the same. Anyhow, I'm just using my good old purple school glue stick here to get these to adhere to the back. So I just put that on the back of each of my pieces that I had cut out, and then I just go through and place them of what I decide looks the best and how I kind of had designed it out in my head. After I get all of the pieces glued down, I do just kind of touch up around that silver edge there with a little bit of chalk paint. And then I do go over the design just to kind of make it blend into the wood like it was all like one cohesive piece, if that makes sense. And then this is just a wood round. I bought this at a yard sale. I bought a big bag of these, but you easily can get these. I've seen them at Dollar Tree, but I don't know if they have the 5-inch size. But Hobby Lobby, you can get them, JoAnns, Michael's, anywhere. And then I am just beating the heck out of this with my long nose pliers. You've seen me distress wood on here before. I just really take all your aggression out on it, and I kind of just really rough up those edges and everything like that, and you'll see exactly what happens when I add the stain to this wood. So this is just antiquing wax that I'm using. I do use Waverly's antiquing wax, but any kind that you use would easily work. Even stain would, like if you wanted to use a traditional stain, would work. But I just give it a really good coat, and then I'm taking a baby wipe. And then when you wipe that away, it just looks like an old piece of wood that has been sitting around forever, that's just aged. And I personally love the way that it looks. So again, if it's not your style, then just skip that step. And then I just take one of these finials that I bought in a pack at Hobby Lobby for a couple of dollars. It came with like 5 or 6. I just glue that to the top. And there's the canister. So cute. But you could also use it to put some of your holiday picks in there or something like that. I just think this looks super cute. What do you guys think of this one? I have this darling little sign blank from Hobby Lobby. It was about $6.50 when it was half off, and it was absolutely, I just thought it was darling. And with all of those half beads and all of the work that it would take in to recreate that, I thought it was a very good value. So I found this little I'm Dreaming of a Farmhouse Christmas design in Cricut Design Space. So I just type in the dimensions of my sign and get it sized so it will fit. And then I'm just going to let my Cricut do its thing and cut this design out. And it's so easy. It will tell you once it's done cutting like the black letters, when it's time to put your red in, when it's time to put your green. It does all of that guesswork for you, so you know exactly what you're doing and when. I will go ahead and leave a link down in my description box for Cricut so you can go get some more information and look at all of the fantastic machines that they have and see which one would be best for your needs. I cannot freehand anything, and you guys know that I am no stranger to saying that, and so I absolutely love the opportunities that this gives me, and it's just been literally such a game changer for me. So I absolutely just love it. So you can see that I just cut that little piece off to make it a little bit more manageable, And then I'm just going to weed out all of these little letters and their little spots that need to be opened up. Weeding is really something almost therapeutic. It is so relaxing. I absolutely love it. If you guys are familiar with weeding, I would like to know your thoughts on it. If you also find it relaxing, or some people I found say they find it kind of tedious. I guess it would just depend on the project that you're doing. But for these simple projects I'm doing today, it was so nice. And you can just see how satisfying it is to see all of these words and designs just come together so quickly. All right, this is my something a little extra that I'm adding to this sign. I thought it would be so fun to take it and give it a nice three-dimensional kind of look. So I had these little wooden sticker trees from Dollar Tree. They came in like a pack with a bunch of different designs, and I thought they would be so cute for this. So I'm just taking some green chalk paint and a little bit of brown, the truffle color, and I'm just taking it and doing the stems obviously in the brown, and then do a couple coats of the green on the evergreen branches just to make sure all of the wood is covered. Hopefully you guys think these will look so cute on this sign. Now I'm going to take my words and we're just going to put them with the transfer tape onto the sign blank, and I'm just going to use my scraping tool and peel back that transfer tape. And now I'm going to add this cute red lettering for Farmhouse, and you can kind of see how I have to take the back of this and I have to kind of bend it to pry back to get that off of there. And I mean, it doesn't take a lot, but sometimes that's just a little trick to know. And then I'll just put this on, and I feel like this is just starting to come together, and I had to make sure to leave enough room at the top for these little trees. Now this part wouldn't really be necessary. I don't feel like it shows up quite a lot, but I thought I would just kind of do a little dry brush on these trees to make them look like they had a little bit of snow, but from far away you can't really see it. So that's totally optional, just an idea, but I do stagger them when I glue them on here, and I'm just using hot glue just on their little sticky part there that they're supposed to be stuck with, and glue those right on. Guys, what do you think of this? I just think this is so cute. This is one of my most favorite signs ever. So I am just taking that dry brush that I used on the trees, and I'm going over the letters, and it is just making it look like that is stenciled on there, like it's part of the wood, part of the sign, like it has that same grain in there. And so you can kind of see up close how that looks. So that is a wonderful little hack to try. I hope you guys love this sign as much as I do, but I just think it turned out darling, and I love those little three-dimensional trees. I think they just add something a little extra to it. I just think it is so cute. I love giving you guys hacks, and I love this one. This is a little set of ornaments that came from Hobby Lobby. I bought it when the Christmas was 50% off, so it ended up being $5, and there's these 3 darling little wooden truck ornaments in there. Now, all I'm going to do is so simple, is I'm just going to remove that little topper there just by unscrewing it with some pliers there, and then you're left with the most darling little truck for tiered tray decor. So simple and so easy. If you were to resell these like at a booth or something, you could separate them up. You could even put a little spackle on the top of them to cover that hole, and then just kind of touch up the paint. I'm just painting with some black paint and a little bit of white. I'm making a cute little window on the front because when I had it sitting down, it looked just a little bit bare there. So you can just keep that in mind. Do that if you would like. The ornament section at stores is a great place to look for tiered tray decor or little trinkets like this that you want to have to stick into your decor. They make so many different varieties of Christmas decorations now that you can almost find anything to fit your decor style. So always make sure that you're checking out those Christmas aisles and the ornaments to see if there's anything that fits your decor style that you need. I'm starting to see them pop up in stores already. I was in Hobby Lobby the other day, and they are starting to put Christmas out. And so it's a great time to check while the selection is there. I'm curious to know if any of you guys already do that, shop the ornaments section to find some of your everyday decor items for tiered trays or different things. But I absolutely love this hat. Now, I think this little truck turns out cute. I love how that window looks. This is going to be so cute with our little display. I've had this little nativity ornament for a little while, and I really felt like if I was to put it on my tree, it might kind of get lost in there, and I really did want to showcase it since we do like to have a lot of decor that does remind us of the true meaning of Christmas and the nativity. And I just love it. It's this little like wrought iron. It's really flat. It's just very simple, very rustic. So I'm just cutting off the little hanger from it with some wire cutters here, and then I will just sand that down so it's not sharp at all. And I just used some elephant chalk paint and some silver lining and just kind of stained these little paint sticks that I got at Lowe's.
and you can see how cute that looks. And I'm just doing that to kind of measure for where I want to cut the paint sticks down to, so that way I'll have a background. Now you can do whatever you would like with an ornament like this for a background. This is just to give you some inspiration or some ideas here, but I'll just cut these down. You can cut them down however you would. If you have some miter shears or something like that, that would probably work as well. But you can see that I love the shape of that, how it fits. So I just glue the ends I cut off on the back with some wood glue and hot glue, and that's what's going to hold all of this together. Now I want to brighten it up a little bit, so I'm just using some plaster chalk paint and just doing a very heavy dry brush on here. So that way that kind of rustic metal, it's like a rustish brown color, it's not quite black, will really pop against this, and it's just going to look like really weathered wood there. And I kind of decide that it needs a little something extra, so I stain a few more pieces of my painter sticks, and I'm going to cut them. I'm going to make a little roof line, like a barn roof line on this. So on the ones that I'm going to put on my roof, I do stain a little bit darker, and then you can see those ones I cut at an angle. I'm kind of making a little roof line there and just gluing those with some other little pieces. So there we go, looks kind of like a little barn or a little house. And then I'm just gluing these together for the roof. Now you could easily use one of the little houses that you find at Dollar Tree or whatever you can find, but I thought this was super fun, super cute, and I think it's just gonna look really cute when it's done. So I glue the roof on here, and then I do a little dry brushing on that, and just use some gel super glue to glue this nativity on. Now it looks absolutely beautiful the way that it is here. I just love how simplistic this looks. But you know me, I have to kind of extra everything. So I have some barn wood from a barn that we tore down a little while ago. So I just take a couple of pieces of that. This would be completely optional. You could find anything else that you would like to do with this to add a different background to it. But I really liked the idea of using something that was special to us, like our barn that we tore down and the barn wood from that, and how simple of the nativity with the stable and the wood. I just thought it all went really well, and the special meaning that it had for my family. But this is really all there is to this. It's very simple, but I think it is so beautiful and so elegant, and what a wonderful reminder of the true meaning of Christmas.
I am so excited to show you guys this DIY because it is one of my favorites from today. Well, they're all my favorites. I always say that, but I really do love this one, and it was so fun to do. So I am just going to do some decoupaging with a napkin. So I found these napkins at Dollar General, and I thought this cute little truck on the front, and it says home for the holidays. I thought it was so cute. So if it's a couple, like 2-ply, you want to go ahead. You just want to make sure that you're left with one layer. Otherwise your Mod Podget's not going to work quite right. Take my advice because I've learned the hard way. And then I do have this back that I found at Hobby Lobby, but you could do whatever sign blank that you had. I just liked the planks in this one, and it's what I had in my stash, and so that's why I ended up using this. But easily any type of background that you have, even from Dollar Tree or anywhere, would work fine. So I am just going to cut off this little hanging thing. We're going to replace it, but I wanted to be able to dry brush some paint on this, and I believe I'm using the cashew color in Waverly's chalk paint. I just kind of picked it to match the color of my napkin, and so when I decoupage the napkin on, it will blend in really well. And of course you just do this as thick as you want on there, and then I am just going to place the napkin down, and you probably could just go ahead and decoupage it that way and it would be fine. Mod Podget, I guess I should say, and it would be just fine. But I am going to kind of cut this little design out, and I had a lot of people on one of the last decoupage projects that I did mention doing a brush with some water, or a water brush, to kind of cut your napkin around the design. So that's what I'm doing. I'm giving that a try. I'm just getting a really fine brush, and I'll dip it in the water, and then you just have to remember that the water will bleed just a little bit, and then I will just kind of tear this away from where I am working. So the other was sped up considerably. This is real time right here, so it does take a little bit of time to do this, but honestly I felt like this gave a much better look than just cutting it out with scissors. However, I have done it with scissors and it does look fine, but see how you kind of get those little torn edges there? That just kind of, when you Mod Podge, those just blend in to make it look like it's part of the background. So super cute. And we'll just speed this up a little bit here so you can kind of see. I just go through the whole design, and I do take off the home for the holidays part, so I put that on separately. And on the words, I just get as close to the words as I can without actually cutting into the words. And then I do put some Mod Podge down on my sign, and I don't think I showed that, but I'm showing it here with the words here. But just Mod Podge in the area where these go, and then I just gently lay them down, and then you are gently, gently, gently going to go over the top of them with some Mod Podge. And I was able to kind of pull that up to get it straight so that way any wrinkles can get out. Now you do not want to use your Mod Podge roller on when you're working with the napkins, because from my experience, it literally just shreds it. It just tears it because it's so fine and so delicate. And so just keep that in mind. I'm just working with the brush, and remember, this is very sped up. I am going slow, and I am taking my time so that way even the brush bristles does not rip the napkin. But you can kind of see it just fades into that background, and how like it looks like it was just made to go on there. Now, right here, I'm just taking, you could even use like a gift card or a Cricut, like I'm just using my Cricut weeding tool to kind of go through and just indent the area of the planks in the sign. That would be completely optional. And again, there's plenty of other things you could use than having to use like a Cricut tool, like a gift card or credit card or something like that would even work really easily. And then I'm just going over the part of the sign that I had not put Mod Podge on, so it all has the same type of finish, if that makes sense. And then I'm just going to feed through some twine and tie that off on each end. And then I finish it off with a little bit of Mod Podge on the end so it doesn't fray and it won't come untied. And if you ever get like wonky jute twine that kind of curls up, or especially when you get to like the middle of your roll, just spray a little bit of water on it and it straightens right out. So I'm showing you I'm taking a little bit of evergreen and I just roll it around with some twine and then just use some hot glue to glue that off. And then I add a little bit of berries and a cute little bow. This is total personal preference. I just thought it looked really cute. But let me know what you guys think. Would you have ever known that this was a napkin on this little sign here? This DIY would be so easy to recreate with any type of sign blank that you get either at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Dollar Tree, anywhere like that, an old sign that you might have. And you can use basically anything else that you have. I'm using a Christmas ornament in this one, but if there was some other little type of trinket or something, it would be super easy to use with that. But basically, I'm just going to scrape all of the glitter off because we know that Dollar Tree is famous for their glitter that they put all over everything. And then I'm going to give this a really good coat of white chalk paint. And I'm going to go over it. I think it takes about 2 or 3 coats to get this completely covered to make sure that you don't see any of the background. I am going to use a piece of painter's tape as a spacer between to make some stripes on this. So I basically will lay a piece of painter's tape down, another one right underneath that for the spacer, and then my next line, and then I pull up the spacer to leave the negative space that I'm going to go in and paint. So since we are doing Christmas themed, I am going to do some red paint for my stripes. You want to make sure that when you are using any type of stencil or tape like this, that you do clear off your sponge brush. I prefer to use a sponge brush. It's not really a brush at all, so I don't know why I'm calling it that. But my little painting sponge. But you can definitely use a stencil brush that is specifically for stenciling, but you want to just make sure that you seal the edges of the tape or your stencil with dabbing it lightly on those and making sure that there is a little amount of paint. It's better to do less paint and do more coats than go in with a big glob of paint, if that makes sense. So as you can tell, as I'm tearing off the tape here, I love this satisfying feeling of pulling this off and seeing nice, crisp, clean lines. I do want to make this look a little bit weathered and worn, so of course I'm going to distress it because that's what farmhouse is to me. So do whatever you'd like as far as your distressing technique, or none at all would also be fine with this. I mean, it's Christmas, it doesn't have to be distressed, but for it to match with my decor and everything, I am going to distress this. I do sand and pay attention to the corners, and I also go in with a brush and some antiquing wax and go around the edges to give this that farmhouse worn look on the edges. I do have this ornament from Dollar Tree that I am going to go and glue on here. Like I said, any other type of ornament that you have or any other type of trinket that you would like to use to glue on this would totally work. So I am just putting glue along the back of this, hot glue, and then I am just going to firmly place and hold this until it dries, not until it dries completely, but just until it has a firm stick, if that makes sense to you. And then, of course, since it's Christmas, I think that I'm going to make this into Rudolph, since I do love the movie Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the song. So I am going to put a little bit of hot glue on a little berry, and I am going to stick that on his nose there to make it look like a Rudolph. And look at how cute he is. I think this turned out so cute. It is so fun. I think this is just that cute little thing either to put like on a tiered tray in your china hutch and a little shelf that you've got, just something to tuck away into a nice little corner that you need to bring a little bit of fun Christmas spirit to. I love these little sleighs from Dollar Tree. I think even if you left it as is, it's absolutely darling. So, but we're going to kind of take it and match our decor today. So it is kind of coming apart in a few places. And so I do take just some hot glue to make sure that it's sturdy and it's all put together, as well as remove that twine from the top. I will be putting some twine back on it, but we're going to take that off to work with it. Now I sand all of the glitter off that I can because it's covered in glitter, and glitter is fine if you're wanting to use it for your decor, but when you're painting over it, you want to get as much removed as you can. And I'm just going to use some white paint just to cover this to give it the base. I want it primarily to be white. Now on this little top part of the sleigh, this crossbar here, it started to peel off, so I just peeled that off and then sanded it down so that it was kind of like a cardboardy type stuff there. And then I just go back over it with some white paint. I do 2 or 3 coats to kind of make it look really smooth. Now on the little rails of the sled, I do just take my time and I go in with a little detail brush and paint them black, so we have the black and white contrast. And I do take my time with this part so that way I don't hit any of the white paint that I've already done. Now you can cut out a deer from a printable online. I used my cutting machine to cut this out, and I had a few people mention to me to use saran wrap over some delicate decoupage areas with my roller, and I didn't have any saran wrap, but I had a Ziploc bag and it actually worked really well. So thank you guys for the tip there. And that just helps that his little antlers are very delicate, so I just didn't want those to rip or anything on there, but I did just apply that using decoupage. And then I cut out these letters because if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I very much struggle with hand lettering. Even my handwriting, my whole life I've struggled with it, guys. And so I just used my cutting machine. Use what you have. You could easily use some stickers from Dollar Tree, whatever. I just thought it would be very cute to have it say hello dear with the little deer on there. Now I'm just taking some wooden beads on a skewer stick and I'll paint 4 black and 4 red. And I love this method of painting the beads because if you put some painter's tape between them, you can paint 2 separate colors on the same skewer, and it's easy to kind of move them up and down and get in between. This is a very good hack and I absolutely love it. I thought these would be cute on the little tie that I'm going to do on the top. So I'm just going to take some twine and tie that back onto this first little rail of my sleigh, and then I'm just going to feed these beads on and in every other one pattern there, and then I will just tie it off on that other side. I have this bow that I made for another project that I never used, and so I'm just pulling it out because I thought it would be perfect for this project. It's just some buffalo check ribbon that I just did some like 5 loops on it. So it's got 2 on each side with the 1 in the middle. I'm sorry I don't have any footage of me making this because I made it quite a while ago. And I'm just gluing it onto the side with some hot glue because I thought this sign just kind of needed a little extra fluff or something on it. And so I'm gluing that down. And then what I do with the beads is glue them kind of over on the twine so they stay to the right. So that way you can still see the beads. They don't get lost behind the bow. I think this is such a good alternative to a wreath. I think this would be so cute hanging from a front door. If you do that, make sure you do put decoupage all over it just to protect it all. But I think this turned out absolutely adorable. I found these darling little 3-dimensional trees at Dollar General, but I feel like I've maybe seen them at Dollar Tree before, so keep your eye open. I'm not 100% sure if I'm just dreaming with that, but anyhow, they're very cute. They were $1 for the pack of 3 trees from Dollar General, and I just picked 3 different types of craft paper that I thought would be really cute to add for my trees. So I just trace each of the trees out onto some craft paper, and then after cutting them out, I put some Mod Podge both on the wooden portion of the tree and the craft paper before I adhere one to the other. That's just going to give it a really good bond. And then I will just kind of trim up the edges on the branches. I do use my Mod Podge roller. You guys, I had never realized I needed a Mod Podge roller in my life until I got one. It is the best thing ever. But after I get all of my paper adhered to there, I do use a fingernail file to sand off the edges to make it really crisp and clear. And then I take some antiquing wax also and kind of cover up those edges. And you could leave the edges. This is personal preference right here. I just didn't like the bright white wood color right there. I just thought kind of an aged look would be really cute and kind of maybe look, like the branches part of the tree. I don't know. So I just go through all of the edges and do that. And then you just slip these all together and they look so cute when they are done. They are perfect for tiered trays. They are perfect just to kind of tuck into that little area where maybe you need a little bit of Christmas decor, something really easy. And you can customize these to however you want for your decor is the best part. So it was so simple and so easy, and look at how cute they are. They make such an impact, and for not that much time and very inexpensive, you can have something very, very, very cute. I found this cute little planter box. It's just a little wooden box at the thrift store, and I've seen these there on several occasions. So if you ever find them, pick them up because they're usually pretty inexpensive, and I just feel like there is so much versatility with them. So I'm just taking a stencil from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to stencil onto the front a little sign or saying, I'm just putting Holly and Ivy Company or Holly and Ivy Co. on here in these stenciled letters, maybe just to kind of give it like a shipping container type of vibe, or I don't know. I just thought it was really cute and really rustic. And since I'm going for everything themed after the holly and the ivy in this particular video, I thought that would be really cute to put on the front of this box. As a tip while I'm stenciling, I'm putting some painter's tape over the letters next to the letter that I'm stenciling. So if I happen to go over, I'm not going to have anything come through the other letters. So just keep that in mind when you're stenciling. These Dollar Tree stencils actually work really well. And I just used one of the Dollar Tree stencil brushes, but I did trim off the bristles a little bit so it was a little bit more flat. And then of course, we know that I love to distress everything. So I'm just making this look a little bit more aged here. I really liked how this looked. I just used my emery board, or use your finger sander, sandpaper, whatever it is that you use. And then I just go over it with a baby wipe to kind of clean all of that dust off. And I just really, really like that vintage look that it has. I bought a package of these styrofoam balls at Hobby Lobby, so I'm just going to use those, but any shape or type of styrofoam that you have that will fit down into your box will work just fine. I'm taking one of the jumbo picks of holly from Hobby Lobby that I purchased. You can definitely use Dollar Tree holly if you have that or can find that. I am just cutting it up into little picks here, like little mini picks, and I'm just sticking it in to the top portion of this styrofoam ball. And you just want to make sure when you place it down inside your planter that it sits down in far enough that you're not going to be able to see the bottom portion of your styrofoam. Now I noticed when you stick it in there, you can kind of see through the leaves there. You can still see the white of that styrofoam ball. I'm just using some hot glue and some moss, and I'll just put the hot glue in and stick the moss down in just to kind of cover that, so that way that white is not what is peeking through. You see the moss instead.
This Dollar Tree candle riser fits in my little crate perfectly, but I do need to cut some of the bottom of my styrofoam off to make sure that that is not peeking out. So I just take some of my scissors and rip a little bit of that off on the bottom. And then I just use some hot glue on top just to make sure, I mean, it will sit on this just fine, but so it doesn't like blow over or anything like that if somebody was to walk by it. I'm just using some hot glue to secure it. I felt like this could use a little bit more red, so I'm just taking some extra berry picks and just sticking those sporadically in all around. Now, I realize that the song, The Holly and the Ivy, is not the most popular Christmas song, but I have found that a lot of people actually know the melody of the song. They just don't realize that that's what it is. But it is a really beautiful song that takes the holly plant and it translates it kind of into Christmas Day and the birth of Christ in a very beautiful way. But what do you think of this planter box? I think this turned out so cute. So I have seen these cute little felt ornaments all over Pinterest, and I thought it would be so fun to kind of make my own using this little element from these stockings that come from Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to rip off so easily, but do be careful because you don't want to rip the snowflake itself. So I take both of those off, and then I'm going to use a Dollar Tree sack to use as my stuffing for this. Now this is so easy. So it is just literally using some hot glue, and you're just going to trace the outline, and you just are going to place this down. Now I do use these little silicone finger protectors from Dollar Tree, which work perfectly for a project like this. Now the key to this is having some patience. You want to let that hot glue dry in between when you put your next layer on. So not layer, but your next area. So I'm coming down and just gluing down. So I want it to be halfway down before I add any of my in quotations, stuffing, the little sack that I use. And what I'm going to do is just take this Dollar Tree sack, and I didn't know how much of it I was going to need, so I started with half of it. And again, you're going to let this snowflake be completely dry of glue, so you can use your finger to kind of stuff that up into the little points of your snowflake, so that way it looks, and you can use batting for this. You do not have to use a sack or anything. I just happen to have a ton of these that I use to stuff like my outdoor pillows with when I do pillows for my porch. And so I thought, well, I'll just stick it in here. It would be kind of a fun idea. So I'm just tying off some twine at the bottom there, and I'm going to glue that inside. So I'm going to tie that off and glue it here at the point where you're going to have it. This is going to be your top. And then just kind of fit in as much of the stuffing or batting or whatever it is that you're using that you want. And then you're just going to carefully use your glue and hot glue this up and seal all of the edges. Do remember to take your time with gluing these edges up though. It's not a race to get it done, and I feel like the little bit extra time that you're going to take on this is going to give it that really nice look, almost like it's stitched together rather than glued together. So just keep that in mind as you're doing this, is just take your time, go slow, and just wait for that. Like I said, the key is patience with this. Wait for that glue to dry before moving on to the next section, so you're not lifting up and you chance ruining your bond or ruining the fabric when you lift it up to glue the section. So just make sure each little section is completely dry before you move on to the next. How cute is this? I love how this turned out. And you could even cut different styles of fabric out to use to make your own. Their possibilities are endless with this. When I first saw this on Kirkland's website, I thought it was a sign. I absolutely loved it. And then I realized it's a placemat, but I thought I'm going to make it into a sign because I absolutely love round signs, especially I have a little spot in my kitchen that I put them, so I especially love them there. So I did cut out, this is all just from Cricut Design Space. So they had this Merry Christmas font that it wasn't even the font. It was actually when you went into images, it was just one of the images there. And I will say that the little teeny circles around the edges did kind of give me a little bit of a run for my money because they are so thin. I feel like if you were going to recreate this, just do one big circle there and save yourself the hassle, because those little teeny ones really, they kind of came up. As you can see here, I had to fix a little bit of not only my letters there that I had to fix,
but the circle here, like I had to go all the way around these and kind of hand push them in. They're just so delicate. They do look really nice when they're done. They're not as straight as I would have hoped. However, if you're going to recreate this, do a little bit of a bigger line, or if you can freehand, like have this on like a Lazy Susan or something that's turning in freehand, a stripe or a pinstripe or something around it, do that. But it works for what it is, but I'm just giving you a little bit of a warning that that was a little bit of a headache for me. And then just searching the word vine in my Cricut design space, I was able to come up with a couple of designs to put at the top and bottom of this. So I chose this one as a bigger one for the bottom, and then I had this cute little one that I put on the top there. And then to make it match, because it kind of looked a little plain like this in my opinion, and since the other one does have a big red ring around the edge, I went ahead, and this is just a pizza pan from Dollar Tree. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but I'm just painting the rim of that pizza pan. I'm just painting it with my red crimson chalk paint, and it does take 2 coats of this because the red doesn't cover as good with the first coat, so you usually do need to go in and darken it up with that second coat. This is sped up quite a bit, just so you know. I did really take my time on this to make sure that it didn't go over the edge, that you can see, you know, how good it looks and how it makes that pop. And then with my second coat, I just go in and, like I said, I just go and darken that up all the way around, making sure that I get all of the edges around the outside, so that way if you see it from the side, that those are covered up as well. Here is a look at the placemat on Kirkland's website that I decided to make a sign because I thought that's what it was. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'm really excited to use this in my holiday decor. I think it's really cute. Have you guys had a chance to make a pizza pan sign yet? I actually think they're kind of addicting. They are a lot of fun for very inexpensive. I found this cute little teal barn star. It's kind of got that tin and then a wood frame. I found it at a yard sale, and it was a really cute color, and I actually had anticipated maybe using it the color that it was. However, as it sat and stared at me from my stash over the last few months, I kind of thought I would save it for a project for Christmas, and I am so happy with how this turns out, and it will definitely get used from year to year for Christmas. But I'm just using some crimson chalk paint to cover it completely in Waverly's chalk paint, and then this metallic paint right here. Since this is tin and it did have that turquoise underneath, I didn't want to sand it to expose the tin because I was afraid the turquoise would show through. So I am just taking this, and on the high points of that tin, I'm just kind of distressing it to look like it's kind of weathered and worn. Now I am taking 2 picks that I have that you can use, just evergreen picks that you have in your stash from Dollar Tree, the craft store, anywhere. And I will wrap these 2 together to make them look like a wreath. And then once I flip them over, I will just use some floral wire and just kind of wire some of the stems together to the back. You could also use zip ties, would work. I had several people mention that to me when making one of my wreaths, and I have used that hack, and it is definitely wonderful. But you'll just go around and give this just that circular wreath shape, and anywhere you feel that you need to connect it together, you'll just do that. And after I've kind of fluffed it up and everything, I have this cute little ornament. Now, I don't remember if this came from Dollar Tree or Dollar General, but it came from one of the places. It just says Believe in some really sparkly writing, and I just loved it. So we're going to use that with our wreath. So I just used some hot glue, and I pressed down these evergreen, I guess they're picks, but now it's a wreath, so I guess I could technically call it a wreath. But I'll just glue some hot glue onto the back of this, plenty, so it makes sure that it connects really well, and then I'll just press that down and hold that into place there. I just love that with the Christmas star and the word Believe. I just think that that Believe pops so cute on there, and you could embellish this any way you want with any types of ribbon or anything. In my house we do use both the black and white and red and black buffalo plaid, so the bow that was on there actually was really cute, and so I just left it, but you could obviously change it to do whatever you would like.
or use a different ornament that you might have. There's tons of ornaments out there that are so cute that would look so fantastic on something like this. And I feel like a lot of us probably have one or two of these little stars kicking around that we've used because they were so popular for such a long time. And I feel like they're still really relevant, especially in your Christmas decor. But I'm just taking a little package of these little berries from Dollar Tree, and I'm just sticking them in all the way around with a little bit of hot glue so they stay. And I just go around the whole thing doing that, just kind of to what looks pleasing to my eye. I think this is going to look so cute, either propped up somewhere like on a shelf or something. It even has a little hanger on the back, or if yours doesn't have a hanger, you could affix one to the back and hang it somewhere. It is so cute. It would be cute on a front door. I absolutely love how this one turned out. What do you guys think of this? Do you guys like these stars? I saw on Pinterest somebody use ornaments extremely close to these that I purchased at Walmart. Now this set is from last year, but I have seen similar sets almost identical, if not identical, this year. So I thought it would be fun to kind of see if I could do my own take on these little ornaments. So I just take one of these tags and I'm looping some jute twine through, and I'm going to thread some wooden beads on here. Now the one I saw on Pinterest had a couple of beads that were painted, so I'm going to do the same thing. So I just take a barbecue skewer, like a wooden skewer, and put a little bit of painter's tape. This works extremely well if you just have a couple beads that you don't need to use a lot of paint for, or it just needs to be kind of quick. But I just separate each of the beads with some painter's tape so it can kind of move around on the skewer. I can paint multiple colors on the same stick, but they're not going to bump into each other and share their paint colors. As you'll see here, this makes it extremely easy to get those hard to reach, like the little top portion of the bead, and then I can flip it over, and then what is the bottom of the bead then becomes the top, and then you can just kind of watch what I'm doing here and get those hard to reach areas. I love this little technique to do this and separating it with the painter's tape. Now the one I saw on Pinterest only had a couple of beads painted, so that is the route that I went, but you definitely can tailor this to your colors and your liking. If you don't like the natural beads or you don't like the painted beads, you can do it either way or do a mixture of both. So now I'm just going to thread the beads on in whatever order. I did different sizes of beads here, so I put like the larger one at the base and then kind of worked my way up to the smaller size beads. So whatever beads you have or whatever size is going to look just fine. And then I have this cute little black and white ribbon that I had on hand, and so I'm going to use this to tie. I decided not to tie a bow. I just tie it in a little knot. I felt that that looked the best. A bow looked kind of bulky, at least with the way that I tie bows anyways. So I just tie it off and a knot at the base of the beads there at the top of the tag, and then I cut it off at an angle to make the ribbon look a little bit finished. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the top of the beads and do this exact same thing, cut it off at an angle, and then we will just go ahead and tie the twine off at the top to give it its little hanging element. Now I want to secure this knot at the top of the ornament to make sure that it doesn't like ever come untied or anything. So there are a couple of ways that you can do that. One way is to put a little dab of hot glue at the top to stop the knot from slipping. I am choosing to put a little brush in some Mod Podge and paint that all over to give a little bit of security to that knot so it won't come untied or slip. Here is the ornament all finished, hanging from my tree. I think it is absolutely darling. There were several of these little tags in that package, so you could make quite a few. So I have this little snow globe from Dollar Tree and also an ornament that I found at Walmart that I absolutely loved that has a nativity on it, and by a happy coincidence it fits perfectly with the snow globe. So I just removed the design that was on the snow globe because I wanted it to be so you could see the front and the back and not have to worry about that. So I did just take that little paper design on there. Now this ornament is double-sided, so I am going to use both sides of it for two different DIYs today. So it took just a little bit of prying with my putty knife, but it did pop right off. So I will paint my snow globe completely white,
and I believe I painted all over white. So really you probably don't have to take that paper design off, but it makes it so it won't like bubble up or anything like that. The paper won't get wrinkly, if that makes sense at all. And then I take some, and I use my sandpaper just to kind of smooth the paint because I wanted it to have not just be really smooth. And just with some hot glue, I put that little nativity scene on there. Like I said, it just fits so perfect. I did decide it needed something around the edge to finish it off, so I am just using a little bit of hot glue, and this is sped up quite a bit, so I really did take my time with this. But I would put just a little bead of hot glue and go around with my jute twine to kind of give that edge a little bit of something extra. After I finish the twine around the edge, I do wrap about 3 or 4, 5 or 6, I don't know, quite a few little layers there just around the bottom. I thought that added a little bit more texture to the bottom and tied in the twine around the edge of the nativity scene. After I tie this off, I look at it and think it needs a little bit more substantial of a bow there. So I just wrap the twine around my fingers 3 or 4 times to make more loops. I thought that looked a little bit better. And then I'll just tie that off in the middle with another piece of twine. And then using some hot glue, I will just stick it over that knot. And then the little tails that come off the bow, I'll just cut those off, and those will serve as my tails. The song, The Holly and the Ivy, does talk about Christmas Day and the birth of Christ quite a bit, and so I thought a nativity was perfect. So I love that this ties that in. I also felt like it could use a little bit of color, and so I have these darling little pieces of holly from Hobby Lobby. It was a couple of dollars for this whole sheet of them, and so I just took one of them off and just glued it like it was coming out of the bow there. I thought that added such a beautiful little touch to it, a little bit of color, and also for me, just a nice little reminder of the correlation between the holly plant and Christmas Day, the birth of Christ. I absolutely love how this turned out. I think it is so simple and so elegant. What do you guys think of this one? I have this little joy ornament from Dollar Tree, some craft paper, and then I did buy a whole bunch of these round ornaments at a garage sale or yard sale that I went to. But I know you can find things like this at Dollar Tree and at Hobby Lobby, Walmart. So whatever you've got on hand will work. And I'm just using some of my Elmer's school glue, and I just will put the glue all over the front of this ornament right here. And then I will just turn it over onto the craft paper. And then to make sure that craft paper is adhered really good and you get a really good bond, I'm using my Mod Podge roller. You could even use like a gift card or credit card or Cricut scraper, something to just kind of make sure that you get a very good bond between the paper and that ornament. And then I don't really need to do this where I go around with my fingers on the craft paper, but for some reason I thought I did, I don't know. But you just basically follow around the shape of your item, and any shape you could do this in. And I'm just going to cut the paper around, and then once I get this all cut out, I will take my file. You can use whatever type of sandpaper works for you. I just use a fingernail file, and in a downward motion, you're going to file downward. You can kind of see here, and that will make a very crisp and clean and clear edge for you, so it looks like the paper was literally cut out to go on this form. Now I just take some green because I thought that would match the best. You could do whatever color you want, but you do want to put a little bit of paint around the edge because this just finishes it off and makes it look so nice and so high end. And now it's time for my secret question for the giveaway. I would love to know if you guys change your tree ornaments every year or if you leave it the same and decorate your tree the same every year. So make sure you comment down in the comments and let me know if you change your tree up every year or if you leave it the same. I kind of do a mixture of both. I kind of pick my favorite ornaments and sometimes I might change it up a little bit. So now I'm just taking this little joy sign from Dollar Tree, this little ornament, and I'm just putting some hot glue on the back and just centering it to glue it on there. This just kind of pluses this cute little ornament from Dollar Tree, which was cute in and of itself, but this just kind of gives it that little extra oomph. And then I just reused the tie that came with it. You could glue a completely new one on the back if you needed to, or just whatever to use for your hanging element. And then this is done, and look at how cute it looks. I love to use a little bit bigger ornaments like this to kind of fill in the gaps on my tree. I love how this turned out. I was so surprised and so excited when I found this sled at my local thrift store for just $2. I knew that I just had to have it, and there were so many possibilities, and I truly love how this turns out. So I am just taking a wipe and making sure that I wipe everything down, making sure that it's completely clean. And then on these flat surface boards here, I am just going to give them a couple coats of white paint. You can use whatever color you would like and whatever type of paint you would like. What we're going to do is a reverse stencil on the top of this with some snowflakes. Now I only did these 3 boards in the white because those were the only areas that my stencil was going to go. However, once I go to distress this, I had wished that I had done the crossbar in some white paint. I do have a solution for that, but I'm just letting you know ahead of time that I wish I had painted that. That way when I distressed it, that white would peek through. I did use a cutting machine to cut out a couple of snowflakes, but fear not, if you do not have a cutting machine, you can just cut some snowflakes out of cardstock. You can even use like those jelly window clings that you get at Dollar Tree and place down anything to cover the white area with whatever pattern you would like, and then you'll spray paint over it or paint, and that way it will create the reverse stencil. I do take this outside to my little box spray paint studio, whatever you'd like to call it, and I just give this a really good coat. I just have to go over it once with some matte black spray paint. Now, of course, you can customize this to be whatever colors you would like. I am trying to make this more wintry than Christmassy because I do want to leave this up all the way through February if possible. So I'm just making sure that that area all over where those snowflake stencils are completely gets covered. And then after that first top layer dries, I'm going to lift it up and paint the bottom of it. I want to make sure that the complete rest of the area on this sleigh is painted black. So you can do this by hand and not have to do spray paint if you would like. That is completely optional. The next step is to bring it inside, let it dry before you bring it inside. But then we're going to take the stencil off, our little snowflake, to reveal our reverse stencil. So just so you know, when you do this, that spray paint holds down whatever you've used there pretty good if it's got an adhesive on the back. So it will take you just a minute to kind of peel that off, but just be delicate and go slow so you're not going to chip or remove any of your paint. So after I remove my stencils there, I am just taking an emery board. You can use whatever sandpaper or finger sander that you have or that you like, and I am just going over this to give it a very rustic look. What happens is it takes the little bit of layer of the black paint and it makes that white paint come shine through there, and I love how that looks. And this is where I said I had wished that I had done the crossbar in the paint so that way the white paint would show through on that. But I do just take a little, and by little I mean the littlest amount of white paint on a chip brush and kind of very lightly dry brush, so it does look like it has a little bit of white there as well. And then I very lightly wipe this down with just like a baby wipe because I don't want to smear the black paint over our snowflakes, but I do want all the dust removed. Now I just take some rope from Dollar Tree and I unravel it and take one of the strands and get some painter's tape on the end of it and make sure it is tight and as small as I can get it, because I'm going to feed it through that little hole that was provided, and then turn it around and flip it through the other side so that creates our little rope tie there. So after deciding how long I want this rope to be, I just flip the sleigh over and I am just tying a knot in either side. I'm just going to trim that rope down so that way I can easily get a knot tied into the little area there. And then what I'm going to do is any excess rope, just cut that as close to the knot as I can so that way that you're not left with any that's showing. And I'm just using some hot glue to make sure that those knots are not going to fray or come untied. Now to get the kink out of this rope, since it's kind of curly from being wound up in rope, I'm just spraying it with some water, and then I hang it from like a door handle for like an hour or something, and it really straightens that rope out. So the longer you hang it, the straighter it will be. But look how adorable this turns out. I think this is going to be perfect for all winter long. You can even spruce it up for Christmas and then transition it into winter if you would like. I just absolutely love this. I found these truck signs at Dollar Tree, and honestly they were so cute I had no idea what to do with them. And I also had this little candy cane lane sign. Now for the candy cane lane sign, any of the Dollar Tree signs that are like this would work. It just happens to be, if you looked at this upside down, it would still be Christmassy. So I thought it would be really cute to kind of make a little planter out of these. So all I'm going to do, now one of the trucks was on clearance, which I didn't know Dollar Tree had a clearance, but if things get broken or things like that, they do kind of mark them down. So the truck that's in the back, it kind of is damaged a little bit, and so I thought it would be perfect to put it kind of behind this other truck. And so I'm just gluing the candy cane lane sign in between, and that is going to become kind of like the planter portion of this little planter box that we're making. And then this one was also on clearance, but honestly there was nothing wrong with this one. Anyhow, I'm just going to measure these up because they're not completely flat on the front. I had to make sure that I glued like on the hubcaps to get that candy cane lane sign on there, and then I'm just matching them up and setting it down so that way the tires will be even, so when it sits, it will sit completely flat. And after I get these glued together, the fun part comes. We get to get all of our picks and florals and embellish it really cute. For the florals that I'm using, they all come from Dollar Tree. They're just these little evergreen picks that they have, and I'm just folding them in half and then just kind of sticking them wherever. I'm not even sure that I use a full package. Anyhow, I take some of the berry picks from Dollar Tree and just pull off the different sprigs of berries, and I just kind of alternate between different florals that I have. You could customize this to look however you want. I also have these cute little icicle branches that came from Dollar Tree that I absolutely love using in all of my stuff, and so I just kind of sporadically put all of these in until I think it looks good. And here's our little red truck planter put together. I think this looks so cute. It is definitely a great addition to my Christmas decor and so easy to do. What do you think of this one? I'm going to make a reindeer crossing sign, and I'm going to use this little ornament sign from Dollar Tree. So I'll just remove this top metal portion that I don't need, and I'm using this little wood round that I have to kind of finish off and trace that perfect circular shape so I can cut the top of this sign off. Now the reason I didn't just use that wood round was because it is kind of warped, and I do want this to have a very flat shape to it. So I'm just going to paint this with 2 or 3 coats of red paint. You can do this in whatever color matches your decor the best. And I will leave a link to this graphic down in my description box. But I just found this on Etsy and I thought it was so darling, and I loved the font that it was in and the little name of all the reindeer around the edges. I thought it was so cute. And the holly and the ivy in the chorus, it does talk about the running of the deer. And I thought, what could be cuter than the running of the deer than to have a reindeer crossing sign to go with it. Now this part would be completely optional, but I like to make everything a little bit more farmhouse. So I do go out into my garage and just cut a few pieces of the salvaged barnwood that we have from one of our barns that we tore down. And I'm just going to make a background for this sign to go against. And to keep all of these pieces together to connect them, I'm just cutting a painter stick here in half that I will use as my piece to hold all of the background together. So you'll kind of see what I do with that here. And then, of course, since it's barnwood, I've got to brush it off and make sure that there's nothing gross on it or anything. So I have these pieces, and I just measured them with my sign on the top of it to see how big I wanted to cut it and how much I wanted showing through. Right now, I am just trying to decide if I want like the rougher, more rustic side to show or the smoother side to show. So it's whatever is, preference on this one. Again, this is just absolutely optional. You could easily, if you want to do the whole process I'm doing, do a canvas or do any type of bigger sign that you have and do whatever kind of finish on that you would like. You don't have to have barnwood to do this part. So I'm just using some wood glue on these painter sticks to hold these together, and I quickly realized after I glue this down that this is not exactly how I needed to do this, because I need to be able to clamp this down onto the wood, and so I have to move it up a little bit to the edge because these clamps that I have right here were not working for how I wanted to do it. And I decided for a little bit of security to put some wood glue on the inside of my slats. So definitely follow this process I'm doing right here. And then when I place down my cross piece of wood at the top, I put it close enough to the top that I can just use some little, I'm not even sure what type of clamps these are called, just some like hand clamps maybe, just to kind of clip that onto it, because that would give it the best hold. And I just let that dry completely. I'm showing you here like I'm hitting this pretty hard and it is not coming apart. You definitely could use some staples or anything in there that you would like to, but I just had the wood glue, so that's what I went with. This sign looks so cute with that barnwood in the background. So again, you could even stop here and just leave it like that, because that definitely looks cute. But I am using a piece of styrofoam in the back of this sign, and I'm cutting a bunch of different types of Christmas picks. I got some from Hobby Lobby. It's a mixture of that and Dollar Tree picks. So whatever you have, of course, since I'm going with the holly and the ivy theme, I thought it would be fun to use a lot of holly throughout it. And I did realize the bottom of the barnwood there is not, it's not finished like where I cut it. It's kind of that raw wood. So I'm using antiquing wax on there, and it's the exact color of the barnwood. So you can't get much more farmhouse than that. So I will just glue the styrofoam piece into the center there. And I decide that I want to use some E6000 and stick that on there. And then I just hold it until it stays. But you can see how I just go through and I'll place just sporadically how it looks pleasing to my eye is how I go through and place all of these little picks in here all the way around. I just love these little crystal icicle-y looking branches that came from Dollar Tree. And so I just put these on all of my corners. Actually, I think I put a little bit more than all of the corners, but I just love how these look. And I thought they looked so pretty, kind of since they were hanging over the edges more. They just brought a little bit of sparkle into it, which sometimes when you're doing farmhouse and barnwood and stuff, it's fun to have a little bit of sparkle like that, kind of glams it up a bit. But I'm just using some E6000 and some hot glue for that long and short-term hold here on the styrofoam. And you know, since hot glue sometimes doesn't work the best with styrofoam, you want to just make sure that you hold this sign down to make sure that it stays. And so I just kind of hold it for a little bit. But look at how cute this is looking. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm taking just some antiquing wax that's left on my brush from when I stained the raw part of the wood, and I just go around the edge to give it a little definition and then just brush it over the top. What it does is kind of make those letters pop a little bit more. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but it definitely made a big difference in person. Right, what do you guys think? Did I do a good job with this one? I am so excited about it. I think it turned out beautifully. You can also add like a hanger on the back if you want to hang it. This cute little cutting board came from my local thrift store. I paid $1.50 for it. I have seen these in the antique stores. I have started to see them pop up in some thrift stores. You can get cutting boards very inexpensively at IKEA, also TJ Maxx or Home Goods. I've seen like quite a good display at a fairly decent price. Even Hobby Lobby started to carry some. So I originally wanted to paint this white, but my little brush there broke on me. And as I was getting another one, I decided that I didn't want to paint it, that I really wanted to have this have like an old farmhouse wood look to it. So I just took a baby wipe. My paint was still really wet, so I was able to kind of wipe it off. You can see it does leave a little bit of a film there, but it does end up okay when I put some wax on it to kind of stain it. Now, this is in no way going to be food safe. Where I did get it at a thrift store, I personally would not use it, as where I don't know the history of it. It's just for decor purposes only. So definitely keep that in mind as you're purchasing these. And then you can see I just put a lot of the antiquing wax on it. It's a very thick coat. I'm just using a baby wipe. You could use a sponge brush. However you wanted to apply this would be totally fine. But I did leave it a little bit thicker because I wanted it to be a little bit darker. Now, it did have some really good distressing marks on it. But if you have one that that doesn't have that, like it's a brand new one you got, say at IKEA or Hobby Lobby or somewhere, and you wanted it to have kind of that old farmhouse look, I just like to take some needle nose pliers, and you can see I literally just, as Bob Ross would say, beat the devil out of it. I just bang it up and down, get some really good like pock marks in it, and then as you put your wax over it, you're just going to saturate those marks, and they're going to have a really dark color. You see I go over the edge to kind of give it a really good look there, like really distressed. So, and that's kind of the look that I'm going for. So that's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Now we're going to decorate this for Christmas, and I have this cute little ribbon, this little gingham check. I thought it was really cute and Christmassy. So you can see I just use my little aim of flame there to kind of seal the end of the ribbon so it won't fray. And I'm going to wrap this around. So there's definitely going to be a back to this where it's going to be sitting up like on my kitchen counter or in my china hutch or something. You're not going to see the back, but I tried to match it up as good as I can there. So that way it would still look fine if you were to see it from the back. And I just thought that was a cute little trim on the bottom there. So now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm just going to tie the ribbon in a bow at the top. And so I just do like a traditional old shoestring bow here. So you guys, nothing fancy with this. I just tie it in a knot first to get it on there. And then when I'm done tying the bow, I go ahead and trim the edges into dovetails. This ribbon frays really easily, so I did just seal those edges when I cut those little dovetails there. And then I just kind of, play around and fluff the bow to make sure that it sits how I want. And then I do end up gluing a little bit of greenery up in here. I'm just taking some picks that I had with some holiday looking greenery and just putting some hot glue underneath that. And then sticking the picks up, as you can see me here, and I grabbed some little berries to do the same thing. So as you're gluing it, you kind of can place the bow where you want it to. So if you want those tails to hit somewhere else, which I believe you'll see me do here in just a moment, you can put a little dab of glue underneath those, just a teeny one to kind of hold them in place so they're not kind of going all ski-wampus everywhere. So I love using ornaments to do different DIY projects with, or even just to use for tiered tray projects. So now that the ornaments are starting to come out in the stores, have a look at what they've got, kind of use your imagination, because there are tons of different hacks you can do. So I'm just taking this flat metal truck here, and I'm just going to glue it onto the front to kind of give this that old farmhouse look. I just love the red truck look. It's been popular for a couple of years now, and I'm still just absolutely loving it. So I just think this has a really good, you can see how cute this looks. I just think it's darling. Now I take a little bit of thicker twine, or you could use rope or leather, whatever you had, and just putting a little tie at the top there just to kind of make it look like an authentic cutting board. If you wanted to hang it from this, you could, or it would just be a piece just for decor purposes. But I absolutely love how this turns out. I think it is perfect for a farmhouse country Christmas in your kitchen. I think it's just, I love it. What do you guys think of this one? If you enjoyed the video that you just saw, here's another one that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and have an amazing day.